Thank you so much for coming today, and we are excited to welcome you to our webinar. Our webinar today is going to be introducing our sister center, which is the Youth Technical Assistance Center, Vocational Rehabilitation Youth Technical Assistance Center, and the title of our webinar is going to be on supporting youth on their journey to employment. As many of you know, at the National Collaborative on Workforce and Disability for Youth, we are funded by the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy, and we work specifically to assist states and local workforce to develop systems that better serve all of our youth as we do this work. So we're very excited to have our sister Technical Assistance Center, Vocational Rehabilitation Youth Technical Assistance Center, to speak to us today about the work that they are doing across the country. So we're very excited to welcome our resident experts, Wendy Quarles and Kim Asbani. But before we get to them, I'm going to toss it back to Jessica Fuentes-Diaz, and she's going to explain the setup of the webinar today.
Hi, everyone. So before we begin, let's go over a few things. On the top right-hand corner, you're able to download our PowerPoint presentation at any time during the webinar, along with other materials we have for you, including the Guidepost for Success, our TA intensive menu of activities and services, our YTAC one-pager, and our KSA training file. Right below that is our links box. Right there, we'd like to ask you to complete our participation evaluation right after this webinar. It'll take about 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and we'd really appreciate you taking the time to do this. In the Q&A box, you feel free to ask your questions to our presenters at any time. And at the bottom right-hand corner, go ahead and introduce yourself and participate in conversation with everyone else. I hope you enjoy this webinar, and I'm going to hand things over to Wendy and Kim.
Thank you, Jessica. This is Kim. My name is Kim Asbani, and I am a Technical Assistance Liaison with the Vocational Rehabilitation Youth Technical Assistance Center. And we're really excited to be with all of you today. I know we're still working out some technical difficulties. Jessica, for some reason, Wendy can't hear anything. So I'm not sure what's going on. Just give us 1 second and we can get Wendy. The captioning is not working on her end. I don't see it working on my end either. Jessica Fuentes-Diaz. Okay. Everybody just give us a minute to work through this. All of the audio should be coming through your screen or through your computer. There's no phone line to call in from. Okay, so I see the captioners hearing me. Wendy, can you say something? Kim, do you hear me now too?
I do hear you now. Were people not seeing or hearing?
I was seeing and hearing.
The captioner was not running for me, so right. Are we all set?
I believe it is now. Okay, Conan, thank you. He is hearing and seeing just fine, so it looks like it's good going out. So Wendy, we're on the slide. We were introducing ourselves. Can you see the slide on your end now?
I can, and I didn't get to hear any of the introductions, so I'm just delighted to finally hear people. Kim, did you, is it my turn to introduce myself?
It is your turn.
Okay, hi all. I love demonstrating humanness. We're all, you know, we're good at what we do. We love what we do, and then sometimes when we add technology into the mix, it just takes its own turn. My name is Wendy Quarles, and I'm the project director for the VR TAC. You can see by my address and my email, I happen to be located at Cornell University. I'll talk in a little bit about the dynamic of the relationship between IEL and Cornell University. I've been working in the field on various training and technical assistance projects for a little over 30 years now, and I'm just delighted to bring to you an hour of information about a project that's near and dear to my heart and about a team that's doing amazing work. Kim, I think it's great for you to introduce yourself, and Kim will be starting as our initial presenter to set the context for how the YTAC fits into the greater world of training and technical assistance. So Kim, I'll toss it back to you, and I feel like I'm catching up, so if there's anything more that I didn't do, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. It's so exciting to see everybody introducing themselves in the chat and see the variety of places that we're all coming from across the U.S. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we will go ahead and move on. I just want to remind everybody, if you just came on, if you go on the right side of your screen, you'll see a box that says download materials. You can download any and all of the materials that are up there in the box in the download files button. So Wendy and I are really excited to be with everybody today and get to be interacting with some of the folks that are part of the National Collaborative Workforce and Disabilities. And we hope that through our webinar today that everybody will understand what YTAC is, at least, you know, on a grassroots level. And the services and resources that we have to offer to states, we hope that you will all benefit, understand how you can benefit from the YTAC interaction with states and increase your capacity to serve youth. And also, we hope that you will be able to take some of the strategies and tools for developing partnerships to ultimately increase the post-school outcomes of youth and youth with disabilities. So a little bit about the agenda that we'll kind of go through in this less than an hour time now is giving you just a very brief history of technical assistance centers, both on the vocational rehabilitation side and the education side. We want you to understand what the YTAC is charged with doing under the Rehabilitation Act that is part of WIOA, and how YTAC supports the state VR agencies to meet their needs. We're also going to discuss how YTAC can increase the capacity of those agencies and their partners to meet the needs of youth with disabilities. And finally, a look at how you can expand partnerships with the ultimate outcome of improving those outcomes for youth with disabilities. So it sounds like a lot to cover in the time frame that we have. I do want to just kind of talk about, you know, when we talk about transition, we're emphasizing that secondary transition from high school and everything beyond high school. But we all go through so many transitions in our life, beginning with birth all the way through retirement and or death. And if you think about all the transitions we make, and oftentimes we need supports and other people who can help us in those transition times. That's kind of how you can look at YTAC too with the state VR agencies. You talk about, you know, going from elementary to middle school to high school, those kinds of transitions. Transition from, you know, not being independent to being very independent to, you know, maybe getting dropped off at school, riding bikes to school, driving to school, all those things that phase. And a lot of it takes a good deal of planning and others don't. So we're going to talk about secondary transition and the YTAC charge under the Rehab Act. Excuse me. So we wanted to share with you, what is vocational rehabilitation? There might be some people on here that really aren't 100% sure, or maybe they kind of have a little bit of an idea. And so what vocational rehabilitation is, basically it is a federally and state-funded program that started with veterans that were coming back from the war and having war-related injuries and disabilities and needed support and assistance to get back into the workforce. And the charge of vocational rehabilitation is to help individuals with disabilities no age maximum, and generally you'll see them starting to be served at like 14, 16, it varies state by state. But to help individuals prepare for jobs, get their jobs, and stay on their jobs. And all of it is around in working in competitive integrated employment situations, which means competitive that other people can apply for the job as well, that it's paying the prevailing and or minimum wage or higher, and then integrated in that the individual is working not only with people with disabilities, but there are people on staff there that also do not have disabilities. So we want community-based employment is what Voc Rehab looks for. And as I mentioned before, it's regulated by Title IV, which is the Rehab Act as amended in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that was passed in 2014. There are over 80, yes.
Kim, excuse me, I hate to interrupt you, but we are all seeing a blank slide. We are. So Kim is saying unbelievably, oh, there it is. She was saying unbelievably wonderful things that I was trying to memorize. And I thought it was just my system. So thank you. Now we're not seeing a blank slide, so that's helpful.
Sorry. Thanks for letting me know. So when you look at, you say, okay, well, we have 50 states. How do we have, 80 VR agencies? Some are what we call a general or combined agency, where they have a focus on individuals with visual impairments and blindness, as well as all other disabilities. And so that might be all together in one agency, or it may be separated out. So for example, in Virginia, there's the Virginia Blind Agency, and then there's the general agency. So they're actually separate. So that's how you get all up to 80, because there's such a diverse way that these agencies can be structured. And we do cover the territories in Guam. Okay, let's make sure this one. Are you seeing the next slide, the history and nationally federally funded TA centers, I hope? So I wanted to give you guys a quick look at how we have so many national centers out there to provide technical assistance and training, and we have for years. And I just wanted to give a little bit of a picture of the history of vocational rehabilitation and how it started with what's called the RSEPs, which were these regional rehabilitation continuing education programs providing technical assistance and training and assisting state VR agencies. To then another iteration, called the Technical Assistance and Continuing Ed Centers, or referred to them as TAC centers, and they were regionally based, to now these nationally funded technical assistance centers that actually have morphed. And so now we have several funded centers, the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center, WINTAC. Then you have the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, and another one that we refer to as PROMISE, which is Promoting the Readiness of Minors in Supplemental Security Income. So you can see how time changes, but we still end up having TA centers that can support states, education agencies, VR agencies, and other agencies. We wanted to talk a little bit about some of the centers that some of you may be familiar with, and if not, this might be the first chance that you are hearing about it. But WINTAC is out of San Diego State University in California, and they primarily are around to assist state vocational rehabilitation agencies, their related rehab professional, like community rehabilitation providers, as well as other service providers. And essentially, they have 5 areas that they focus on to help meet the requirements under WIOA. One is around, I'm sure everybody's heard of this, the pre-employment transition services, or pre-ETS as it's referred to, and being provided to students with disabilities. The Section 511 under the Act, which is everything that governs sub-minimum wage employment 14C certificates. They also give technical assistance and training on competitive integrated employment, defining that, what it looks like, integration into the workforce development system, so very much partnering with our colleagues in Title I of WIOA to really ensure that our individuals with disabilities are tapping into any and all services that they're eligible for. And then finally, WINTAC helps the state VR agencies learn how to meet, collect data on, and report to RSA, the Rehab Services Administration, on common performance measures. And you've got a link there if you want to learn more about WIN-TAC. And then another center that I wanted to share with you about is called the PROMISE Center. And PROMISE is an acronym for Promoting the Readiness of Minors in Supplemental Security Income. And this is a multi-federal agency-supported model demonstration program where you've got health, labor, Social Security, education. You've got all these players coming to the table to say, you know, we really need to do something to help students and youth who are receiving Social Security benefits, SSI, and their families to improve education and career outcomes. And there have actually, it was a competitive process that you had to go through in order to be able to be a model demonstration project. There are 6 across the United States, everywhere from Wisconsin to Maryland, New York, Arkansas, California. But then the 6th one is actually a cooperative project called Aspire, and Arizona, Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah are all of the ones who are partnering on their collaborative, which is actually led by the Utah State Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. And if you were on our webinar last week, you got to hear about some of the findings from three of those projects, and you'll be able to access some more information about that as well. It's archived on our website. Then I want to tell you a little bit about the iteration of history and education. We started with 3 separate centers that focused on helping state education agencies. One is the National Secondary Transition Technical Assistance Center, which we referred to as NSTAC, the National Post-School Outcomes Center, or NPSO, and then the National Dropout Prevention Center for Students with Disabilities that was out of Clemson. So when another grant cycle opened up at the federal level, a lot of these players came together and said, you know what, let's come together as one center and still have our areas of expertise. And so that is how we now have the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, which we refer to as NTAC, and they are out of University of North Carolina, Charlotte. So lots of areas where we can all be getting resources and supplementary materials, training, and other things. Let me go a little bit more in depth now about what NTAC has to offer. Like I said, they're there to mostly work with state education agencies, but they do have funding from RSA to have a focus on VR agencies as well. They also provide assistance to local education agencies, so school districts, as well as VR providers. They are charged with providing evidence-based and promising practices. So you'll see a lot of things on their website around evidence-based practices, research-based practices, all of it ensuring that students with disabilities, including those with the most significant disabilities, are accessing the services that they can and strategies are being implemented for them so that ultimately they can graduate and be prepared to pursue possibly post-secondary education and training, then going into employment or going into employment directly out of high school. And any of these centers, you can go to their websites and look for a lot more information or reach out to us and we can assist you. Hey, Wendy, back to you.
I was saying some amazing things, but I was muted. So, yeah, no, I'm unmuted now. And Kim, thank you for setting the context. One of the reasons we wanted to give you the bigger picture is to show how fortunate we are working in this field supporting youth, how many different technical assistance centers have been funded to provide services. So I second Kim's advice to go to the websites of those technical assistance centers. I often say in partnership also with NCWD, we sometimes have the best kept secrets. If you could close out the question and answer box and go back to the screen.
There we go.
Yep. There we go. I say that we're the best kept secrets, but what I hear from the field is once someone finds those best kept secrets, they're amazed by the resources that are available. someone's playing in the question and answer box. If we can go back to the main screen, please. Okay, Jessica Fuentes Diaz, if we could go back to the main screen, thank you. I'll take it over for advancing the slides right now. I wanted to tell you specifically about the YTAC. I know you joined our webinar today to learn more about the YTAC, and I want you to be asking yourself this question, well, what does this have to do with the work I'm doing as we go through? So we are funded by the Rehab Services Administration, and we're a technical assistance center. So when you think technical assistance, that's a global systems approach that we take, and we're charged with providing state VR agencies and related rehabilitations and youth-serving professionals. So I know that some of you represent those related partners and youth-serving professionals. We are charged with helping more effectively serve students and youth with disabilities, including disconnected. We've tossed that word around. Is it opportunity youth? Is it disconnected youth? But anyone who is not currently on a path to VR that wants to re-engage with education or work, who may be engaged in some subpopulations, that's who we're charged at providing services to. We are lucky enough at VR TAC, I'll talk about IEL in a minute, but we're led by the Institute for Educational Leadership, and we partner with Cornell University, so you notice that Kim and I come from Cornell University. We also partner with Boston University School of Education. They are our partners who help to do our evaluation and our logic model setting. One of the most important pieces of our success is our key subject matter experts. We have 30 people from across the country who provide their expertise in the areas of creating products and deliverables. And then we have this amazing team of professionals back at IEL, and let me tell you about IEL, that help us carry out the work. Just a little bit about IEL. I imagine if you are affiliated with NCWD, IEL is very familiar to you. But if this is the first time you're hearing about IEL, I always like to make sure that we have a slide in our slide deck that directs you to some of the work that IEL is doing. We're located in Washington, D.C., and we operate on these three crucial pillars of success. We want the community and public education connected to support learning and development of young people, and you'll see in the YTAC we're doing that in a number of ways. We also are looking at pathways to workforce. I've been watching the questions coming in the question and answer box as well as the chat room, and I know that we represent all different steps on those pathways, so I love seeing what you're asking, and I also love to tell you what we're doing on various steps of the pathways. And this is the one that's near and dear to my heart, number 3 here. We're also preparing generations of leaders to drive these cooperative efforts at all levels. So who are the people entering the field? Who are the people at all different stages in the field that can become leaders, both through youth voice and both through the voice of people who've been in the field for a long time? How can we work together to make sure that students, youth, and all people have equal access to employment services? So just very, very specifically, and I'll try not to be repetitive, is that when Kim was talking about the VR agencies, our first charge is to support VR agencies in finding engaging youth with disabilities who are not in special education. So youth that are in special education, students that are in special education, have kind of a natural flow from school into VR systems. Youth that aren't necessarily in special education, sometimes, we use the term fall between the cracks, or sometimes fall off the precipice and become out-of-school youth. I'll talk to that in just a minute, but we are charged with helping the VR agencies engage youth both while they're in school and when they've fallen out of school. And youth who are not employed is a group we are charged with. Kim, are we missing a slide there? Bear with me. We have 3 different ways that we meet the needs of the youth that we're serving, and we provide 3 levels of technical assistance. Technical assistance is that word that sometimes gets confused directly with training, but technical assistance is our ability to change the systems approach to the work that we do. So we have 3 tiers of technical assistance. We provide universal technical assistance, which is what you're on today, webinars. We provide a website. We also have newsletter and printed materials coming out that is accessible to all. Targeted technical assistance is if we get a contact from a state VR system that says, we are very interested in this specific topic. Could you come in and do a meeting facilitation, a training, a presentation to meet a specific need? We may find ourselves delivering targeted technical assistance. And then we have what we call intensive technical assistance. These are agreements that we have at a state level. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And we are in 11 states right now, and I'll show you in just a minute. And we are creating jointly developed goals and objectives and working with the states on that. So you may say, well, I'm not a state VR system. What does this have to do with me? We are also identifying partnerships in many of these settings, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Kim, I'm losing my voice. Could you take over for a second?
Absolutely, Wendy. Sorry about that. So this slide right here, we've got a picture of a map of the United States, and it's depicting where YTAC has a presence in terms of the assistance that we've provided. And if it's just like an orangey peach state, that means that we have an intensive agreement with that state that includes goals and objectives, and we're helping facilitate and work toward helping them achieve their goals and objectives. The purple ones depict where we are working in collaboration with WinTAC specifically on customized employment pilot programs. And then if you look at the ones that are orange that actually have the diagonal lines, that means that we are doing both. We have an intensive agreement and we're doing a customized employment pilot in those states. So if you guys represent any of those states and you're not familiar with the work that's going on there, definitely reach out to Wendy or I, and we're happy to help inform you as well as get you connected with, or maybe some of you are involved with the work. But that just depicts where we are, and it changes all the time. We keep adding new ones.
I'm back. Yes, I am. You guys, I'm so sorry. I've been battling the loss of my voice forever here. And so I did want to just do a little bit of a highlight of the target audience. There it goes again. The target audience, I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, and we are serving the systems that serve these folks, students with disabilities who are not receiving special education and related services, and those young adults who are already out of high school but not employed. So let me share with you a list. We are serving and working, and so this is where we consider our expertise. We are supporting out-of-school youth or youth in foster care systems, in the juvenile justice system, youth who may be pregnant or teen parents, youth who have dropped out of school or at risk of dropping out, and youth with the most significant disabilities, and youth that are homeless. So I know that there's many folks on the phone that also serve those populations, but I want to remind you that the VR system prior to WIOA and prior to the YTAC being in process or charged with doing this, the VR system had not had direct pipelines or direct skill attainment in meeting the needs of the youth that we've just listed here. So we have spent we are a 5-year project, and we've spent the last 3.5 years helping VR build relationships, identify, engage, locate, all of the above. And so we meet the state's needs in reaching out to that group of people by using the following techniques. We have, I think I mentioned, we have experts in the field of transition, special education, vocational rehabilitation, and training that are parts of our team. So when a state says to us, I would really like to build a bridge between VR and the foster care system, we are going to reach out either locally in their state or nationally to our experts to find the right person to help that particular state build a bridge. So if you're sitting and listening to this and you say, I'm a bridge builder in that specific area, please be sure to let us know. So we go into the states and we conduct what's called a needs assessment and gap analysis. We use a variety of methods to do that, but that helps us understand, is it one person at the states that's saying, boy, they wish they had better skills in serving that list of youth we provided before, or is it a systems flaw? So I see a couple people typing into the chat room really, poking at some of the systems that we have in place in our field. So that's our job, to go in and say, is it a statewide problem? Is it a national issue? And I say problems and issues, but also we lean on, because of that map that Kim showed you, we are able to take the expertise from one state and help fill that gap that another state might be happening. We have an amazing project in California that's doing good work with youth who are in the foster care system, and we want to take that across the country. And Kim, who's a technical assistance liaison, is one of the people that helps us broker resources and tools. So what we mean by that is that there are amazing tools already out there, both that NCWD has produced or that we are in the process of producing, that when a state comes to us or when a partner says, I wish VR was better at doing this, we can say, let's have you take a look at some of the tools and resources that are available to help build that bridge between the state and the resources and tools. We also, let me make sure I didn't go into Kim's. Kim, did you want to do a poll right there? I jumped right past your poll, didn't I?
We sure can. Jessica, can you pull in the first poll question, please?
So we wanted a little bit of engagement to given that list of folks that we said that we serve, wanted to know, how well would you rate your efforts and programs for reaching and serving opportunity youth?
I love to see it live in action. We can see where the majority fall. So I would say the majority, the majority of them are saying that somewhat, not a real strong high or low end, but right there in the middle. So we kind of have the bell curve that we would typically be looking at. And it's all relative in terms of what we think we have to offer, or the efforts that we see either ourselves doing or our colleagues around us, or even our partners, and how we're really being intentional about looking at these populations when we're designing programs.
Thank you, Jennifer, or Jessica, or Jennifer. You could take down the poll now. Thank you. As I cough, I'm forgetting people's names. So thank you, and I'm sorry I skipped over the poll, Kim, but I do agree what that just showed us, and it actually validates what we found in the state VR system, is a lot of state VR was prepared for serving adults. We've spent, the last 50 years making sure that the VR system was set up to serve people after they've graduated from school, after they've transitioned. And WIOA has given us the ability to bridge that gap. And when we communicated with states, we had a lot of people in the state system say, I really need to learn how to work with youth. And then if you take it a step further, the opportunity or disengaged or all the words we've used up until this point are youth that have been missing from typical VR processes. And so we are excited, and this is our best kept secret, and we offer you a link there, is that we have resources and expertise to help the states engage partners, to help the states do what we call community resource mapping and allocation. And so that's a combination of resource mapping, what's already out there. So I can give you an example that we were in Alaska. And if you can picture how giant Alaska is, and I don't know if we have anybody on the call from Alaska, but that even in the cities, when we brought folks together to do a community resource mapping exercise, they discovered resources through that exercise that they never knew was available in meeting the needs of the particular groups that we just talked about. And by doing that mapping exercise with the states, the allocation piece of it is we discovered how funding allocations could be pulled. And Kim talks about blending. No, you don't talk about blending and braiding services. So we have examples of how we've gone in at a very small level or a very large level and helped systems realize who's out there, that we're not alone in serving the individuals that we listed are our target population. And then the thing we're most excited about is being able to share innovative practices. When we've discovered another state doing it well, or when you guys have helped by your expertise in bringing us information, we pass it on. That's what we're charged with, is highlighting best practices and passing them on. So Kim, if I've not added anything, please jump in and fill in.
Will do. It sounds, you've got it.
So I think I'm tossing it back to you for the next slide, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so now we're going to move over into talking a little bit more about meeting the needs of youth. So in addition to the things that Wendy discussed in terms of what YTAC can do and provide with state VR agencies, let's talk about the youth and opportunities that they will have. We have several initiatives going on that some of them are already in process and others are starting anew. And so it's a great time to be hearing about some of these things so that you can put bugs in people's ears to hopefully get youth in your areas involved in them. One is called the Youth Voice Initiative. And if you can equate voice to advocacy and learning how to use their voice and speak for themselves to get their needs met. That's one project that we're going to be starting, and something else called a learning lab, where you take a group of people. It could be VR staff, VR employers, other stakeholders that come together to look at a program or practice that has been in place and how they can scale it up or how it can expand to other parts of the state, and really come together as a small community to discuss how does this work, what makes it work, what can we do, what are the steps we need to take, how can we make it bigger and better, or tackling even some other issues. And another amazing resource that we have to offer, we've had the benefit of getting information about lessons learned, is from that Promise project that I spoke about in the previous slide that has those 6 model programs. Well, out of Cornell University, in partnership with YTAC, they developed a VR toolkit for Social Security or Supplemental Security Income youth who are receiving SSI benefits and their families. A wonderful toolkit to help you have just enough information to be able to share with the youth that you're serving and with their families, to get them to understand the benefits of going to work and the fact that there are incentives to going to work, while also meeting the needs of the family. So maybe there are individuals who are receiving SSI whose families may not want them to go to work because they don't want them to lose either their check or the medical coverage that comes with some of these benefits. And so this just-in-time toolkit around Social Security is very helpful to have a foundational level to provide that kind of information and get them connected with the appropriate people, such as benefits planners. Then we're going to be offering some leadership camps for youth, so stay tuned for more information on that. as well as I'm going to skip over customized employment for a minute and go straight to family engagement. That's going to be a large part of what the YTAC does in their work with state voc rehab agencies to really get the family engaged in the transition process and ensure that we're being culturally sensitive and looking at the needs of the entire family and what their expectations are for their children, as well as we know we can't achieve a lot of success without support and involvement of families. So that's something that's going that's kind of running throughout what we do. And I did want to highlight the Family, Community, and Engagement Conference that will be in Reno, Nevada. I believe it's July 10th through 12th. And then when you download this PowerPoint, you will actually have all of the information we're saying. Some of the slides have notes at the bottom, and you'll have links to a lot of the items that we've talked about. But I wanted to mention customized employment because we are collaborating with WinTAC on that initiative with various states across the United States to really help individuals with significant disabilities achieve competitive integrated employment. And Wendy, I didn't know if you wanted to add a little bit about that pilot specifically.
Sure, I'd love to. And I was searching down through the chat to make sure that we hadn't missed any pertinent questions. And there was someone from Arkansas that said, I'm looking at the state map and I see that there's a blank in Arkansas. So that map is a depiction of where YTAC is currently. There are states, that we are working in collaboration with WinTAC specifically on the customized employment. WinTAC has a similar map that talks about every state that they're in. So take a look, and if you still see an absolute blank in your state, understand that both WinTAC and YTAC cover the whole country. And so if you're hearing things or seeing things on this phone call that you'd love to bring to your partnership with the VR system, please reach out to one of us and we can get you to the right person. Customized employment is a model of supporting anybody with a disability or access issues, and it is a specific longer model where we utilize a discovery process and help for folks to obtain a very customized approach towards employment. As you can imagine, a longer process takes some getting used to, and we are working in states to help identify processes, fee structures, policies, and attention to evidence-based practices or fidelity to the model of customized employment. We believe that for some of the opportunity populations that we talked about, that the benefit of a very customized, a very individualized, and a longer term discovery process is a model that works for youth. We want to take our time and get it right, and we want to help the systems develop models and help provider agencies develop the staff skills to deliver customized employment. So keep watching for more information about customized employment. It's a model that's near and dear to our heart, and we're excited to be able to be a part of that.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I did want to just make a comment that for some reason, we don't have the captioner. We're not sure what happened. We think maybe her computer, how they just randomly shut off sometimes. I think that may have happened. But I do want to assure everybody that the folks back at IEL are doing everything they can to help her get back to us. So thank you.
Kim, we actually can't move forward unless we have captioning. If you'll just wait a second to see if it comes back. Sorry.
Mary Kay, are you back with us?
We need someone from the IEL Technical Center to instruct us what we should do.
Okay, I see that she's back. She got disconnected from the internet. Thank you so much. So Wendy,
And
I'm going
thank
to
you for your, go ahead.
I'm going to go to the next slide. And yes, we thank everybody for your patience. You know how lovely technology can be sometimes. So we just got to roll with it. So this is what drives a lot of what we do, is expanding partnerships and really helping the Voc Rehab Agency be intentional and also have their partners being intentional also, because we know that sometimes these opportunity youth populations aren't necessarily the ones that are getting most of our time. And it's something that we all have to really be intentional and work hard at ensuring that we're helping them be as successful as individuals who are right there with us every day in school. And so when we look at, you know, many of you that are on that don't necessarily work for a VR agency, you know, how does this affect you? And what are some things you can be doing to support the work of the VR agency and for them to help support you and your youth and students? And that's to try and find ways to find these youth. Some of them are very difficult to find. If we were to talk about youth in foster care, many of them are very mobile across your state. And so how do we ensure that they're not slipping through the cracks? And how do we make sure that youth that are in juvenile justice facilities are accessing VR services and other opportunities to gain work experience, to gain soft skills, and to learn independent living skills and such? So part of it is that identifying and outreach, but being intentional about it, and then doing what the law and IDEA and WIOA says about coordinating those services for these individuals to make sure that we're not replicating what someone else is already doing, and making sure that we're being innovative with our practices and our approaches, as well as working together to develop new things that we can do. And I believe I've always said that when WIOA came out, I know it was very stressful to a lot of people, and there were a lot of changes, but it also opened up the opportunity to be extremely innovative and creative in how we were doing things and helping each other by leveraging our resources and blending and braiding funds together so it's not all on one shoulder of one specific agency, and that multiple populations are being able to benefit from such partnerships. And then ultimately having the commitment, not just saying, okay, well, we did this one time for the kids in juvenile facilities, or we did this one effort with homeless kids and maybe it didn't work. Let's go back to the drawing table. Let's be committed to make sure we are finding ways that can help these youth with disabilities succeed, these opportunity youth. And some things that make that happen and help it improve along the way, the ability to share data. I mean, it seems kind of crazy. It seems like, oh, it could never be done. That's such a big task. But imagine how helpful that is to be able to share data between agencies that are all working ultimately for the same goal, which is to help these youth and students with disabilities prepare for life after high school and be able to succeed in whatever it is that they want to do outside of high school, including living as independently as possible or to their desire. So that data sharing, shared decision making, and being accountable kind of go hand in hand, because we want to work in teams, we want to coordinate these services, yet you know, just like working on a school project, everybody doesn't hold or pull their weight to the same extent. And so we need to be intentional about being able to make those decisions together as a group, move forward with our activities and initiatives, and holding each other accountable to do the things we said we would do. Wendy, I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to add there.
No, well, yes, I say no and then I add in.
Uh-huh.
So yes, and I frequently do that if anybody who's worked with me. So um, I loved what Kim had to say in terms of the data sharing and the shared decision making. I think sometimes, and I'm doing a, if you saw me on an image, people, put their finger on their nose and say, not it. And sometimes instead of everyone jumping up together and saying, I'd like to work together to make sure we make this happen, that people often will fall back on the I'm not funded, I'm not the person who's responsible for that group of people or that type of service delivery. So the TAC centers, all of the TAC centers, are charged with making sure that we're weaving a garment or a carpet across the country that allows us to walk on solid ground, that allows us to help. And I saw a comment from April, and I want to thank you for being very specific. April said, I'm a job coach in a school system, and I liked what I was hearing about customized employment. How do I learn more about that? So we're delighted when we get a question like that, April, because please send me an email after the webinar, or I can get your contact information, and that's exactly how we can begin to weave that garment of success in any part of the country, is by a small question saying, I'd like to meet more people's needs by using a different approach, and we can help either lead you to the place that is doing it. We can lead you to the model. We can establish staff training. That's the beauty of being at a technical assistance center. So Kim, thank you for describing, how it is that we do that. I'm paying attention to time, but I'd like to do a really quick poll. And so Jessica, if you'll pull up the next poll, because I have an interest in how you 72 people that are currently joining us now, what's your preferred method of receiving information in terms of learning about something new? Wow.
Jessica, can we expand that box, please? Thank you.
I'm going to let this go just an extra minute because this topic of how information gets delivered is really important to us as a team.
Looking like interactive workshops is a big draw, and it's followed by in-person. Mm-hmm.
So thank you all for taking time to give us that. Jessica, if you can even take a snapshot of that so we remember what people have told us. So the reason I asked that question is because as we move into our 5th year of our project, we are in the process of creating probably 1 million deliverables. No, it's about 30 deliverables that you'll see coming your way. And the curriculum guide is a term you may not have heard in the past, but we have been asked by our funders to create these amazing resources. They're about 70 pages long that gather together the best information in these topic areas and help you by creating tip sheets, PowerPoints, all sorts of training materials do exactly what you just told us you wanted to do. Interactive opportunities in your settings to learn about this. So you see this gigantic list of topics that we're going to provide curriculum guides. Navigating the legal landscape. That's going to be of great interest to some. And then the topic of maybe serving American Indian youth will be of great interest to others. So take a look at this. I'm excited about each and every one of them. So I feel like I can't highlight any of them specifically, but I encourage you to watch as we launch our curriculum guides because they will be filled with tools and information that you guys can take back and put into trainings or invite us in to do trainings about. The Creating STEM Pathways is exciting. We are going to be down at South by Southwest in Texas, learning about STEM pathways, and we're featuring also a NASA partnership that we have, Youth Voice and Leadership. So that's just an exciting list of curriculum guides. And then we also have what we call practice briefs. Practice briefs are a shorter version. They're 10 pages long. And so April, we'll have a practice brief coming out in customized employment that will tell you across the country where we are doing customized employment projects and how folks are putting together unique projects. And so you'll see that we have some targeted specific groups that we'll be writing briefs on. So pay attention to the briefs that are coming up. And Kim, was this me or you? I apologize.
I'll take it. This is me.
All right.
So, in addition to the practice briefs and the curriculum guides that Wendy was talking about, we also have professional development opportunities. And I see we didn't type that out. But that includes the Learning Lab pilots, the Youth Voice I mentioned earlier, the Leadership Camp that we're in the process of developing these opportunities. So definitely sign up for our newsletter so you can be apprised of when these types of activities are being rolled out and could be offered to your state. We also have more webinars coming up, one that focuses on order of selection for VR, working with families, motivational interviewing with youth, ethics in youth, customized employment a little bit more, and another NASA internship that we're highlighting, and that will be presented at the South by Southwest conference. So lots of other opportunities coming up to learn about more specific services and programs that we have to offer. We also already have on our website some archive resources for you if you're interested. They're all free, and we have 4 webinars that are up there, right? Actually, 7 webinars are up there already. One big category is supporting and serving youth, and there is a different webinar on each of those 4 population areas, from foster care all the way to juvenile justice system. And then we have 3 that are around the SSI and the benefits planning and promise lessons learned. And so definitely use that link, go to our website, get your hands on some of those archive resources. We've got the PowerPoints up there, any materials that were handed out, as well as the typed transcription of each of those webinars. So we highly encourage you to visit and grab those things and share them with your friends and colleagues. We also have a policy brief that is on the website already, and it kind of is a supplement to the PowerPoint that was done regarding benefits planning and work incentives that you can download. And we also have an advisory committee report that was done on implementation of WIOA that you can reach from our website as well. That kind of brings us to the end of the webinar and an opportunity to take some questions if you have them and you want to put them in the chat. We're very happy to answer them and give you specific information if you like. I see Lily, you have a question about youth and young adults who may benefit from our program. If you could be more specific, Lily, in terms of the question, everything that we do as a National Technical Assistance Center, we do directly with the Voc Rehab Agency. So it would be the youth interacting through the Voc Rehab Agency in some of these programs, if that makes sense. And someone asked the question earlier, where is YTAC? As mentioned earlier, it was a grant funded through federal dollars that the Institute for Educational Leadership wrote for and received. And so they developed the YTAC. So our office is in Washington, D.C. at IEL. And Wendy, they want to know if we're going to be showing email addresses. I'm almost positive it was on the second slide, but we can certainly type it in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. My computer went black. This is just one of those nightmare days where I'm just, as a webinar person, having a heart attack here on my end. I also noticed, and you may have answered it while I was offline, that someone had asked specifically how will the youth they are serving learn about our services. Kim, did you already answer that, or can I take a stab at that?
I did. What I told them was that the work that we do as a national center is directly with the Voc Rehab Agency. And so the youth would participate through them, but that, through our newsletter, they can also receive information about the upcoming opportunities. So if you want to add to that.
Lily asked a great question as a follow-up. What is the age group that we use for youth? Kim, that's a question we get asked often. So I can tell you at the top end, it's 24 or 26. And how do we describe it at the bottom end, Kim?
Well, the definition of youth is 14 through the age of 24. So upon turning 25, they're no longer a youth. So each state could set their age lower than what IDEA says is 16. So some states start having services at 14, 15. It just depends on the state that you're in.
And because the YTAC specifically has a greater leaning towards the out-of-school youth, we are typically in the little bit older bracket of youth, but there also may be disengaged youth who are younger. So if you have questions about the specific target age group that you're serving, we can answer those questions specifically.
And I think
Jessica
a big
Fuentes,
takeaway, if I could just say, Wendy, a big takeaway for everybody on today is just if you're, from a school district or another partner agency or a parent organization, just reach out to your Voc Rehab people and see how you can be at the table and how you guys can work together to ensure that opportunity youth are having opportunities.
And we are going to bring this to a wrap, but this could be the first of many conversations with the group that's on the other end of our webinar today. So please, the way that we find out if we scratched the surface, gave you what you were looking for, is by you helping us or providing us evaluation feedback. So we love that third bullet, what additional professional development opportunities do you desire in providing high quality services for youth. So if we turned you on to any part of the subject or you want more of or even less of, because I saw some chat going on in both the question and answer and the chat box about how people are feeling about the work that they're doing, tell us. We can communicate your thoughts to the powers that be, and that helps us design future training opportunities for you. So please be sure Jessica Fuentes Diaz will be sending an email out that follows up after the webinar. And Jessica FD, is there anything more that you'd like this group to know about moving forward?
Hi everyone. No, at the moment, no. But please feel free to download any of our materials in the pod on the right-hand corner and visit any of our links right behind it. So thank you very much. Oh, and please feel free to sign up for the YTAC newsletter. They happen quarterly, and we definitely have a lot of good things to share on them.
All right, and I'll take it from here, and I will wrap it up. I want to thank Kim for taking time out of your busy day and joining me in bragging about the YTAC project and helping the people that had joined us see how that they could partner with us or benefit from the work that we're doing. And I want to thank the team back at the office and the captioner. It takes a whole crew of people, even for an hour webinar, to make it a success. So thank you, Jessica Queener, for kicking us off, and Jessica Fuentes Diaz for providing the technical expertise and the platform for making it happen. And Mary Kay, we're so glad you jumped back in to talk with us as a captioner, and your captioning is always fantastic. And we will have this webinar archived if you missed any pieces of it. And thank you all. Happy holidays, and have a great afternoon and a great week. Today's Monday. So we'll talk to you later. Kim, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you, and happy holidays, and feel free to email us with additional questions.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.